Today, we begin with something brutally demanding, physically crushing, and unimaginably harsh. Life in the ancient Roman construction world. Not as a wealthy architect, not as a respected engineer. Tonight you are not a Roman noble overseeing grand projects. You are just you, thrown into a world where every structure rises from pure human sweat and blood, where machinery means nothing more than your own straining muscles and crude tools. A world where modern comforts are replaced by calloused hands and aching backs. So, before we begin, take a moment to like and subscribe before you gently drift into a happy sleep. It helps us grow and keep creating meaningful stories like this one. And let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. We genuinely love hearing from you. Now, relax. Close your eyes if you wish. Our videos are made to be enjoyed even without watching the screen. Just let the words wash over you. The gentle sound of crackling fire at the end will accompany you into sleep. And now, let's dive into a new journey. Through the words of ancient Roman construction, where every stone was lifted by hand and every drop of water flowed through channels carved by human determination. Good evening. You just arrived in ancient Rome, assigned to an aqueduct construction site outside the city. Your sleeping quarters are nothing but a straw mat in a cramped tent shared with 5 other laborers. The night air is cool, but your muscles already ache from yesterday's work. Tomorrow awaits with no power tools, no hydraulic lifts, no safety harnesses, just your hands, simple iron tools, and the burning sun overhead. Your foreman shouts before dawn has even broken. If you are hoping for coffee to wake up, forget it. Just cold water and a chunk of coarse bread. Your hands are already blistered from yesterday, but there's no time to coddle yourself. The quarry awaits, where you'll spend hours using nothing but iron wedges, wooden mallets, and brute force to split massive limestone blocks. Your back screams in protest with each swing, each heave. If you were to complain about safety concerns, you'd be met with blank stares. There are no hard hats here, no steel-toed boots, no safety regulations. The wooden scaffolding beneath your feet creaks ominously as you help hoist a 200-pound stone block using nothing but rope, pulleys, and the combined strength of your fellow workers. One slip, one moment of weakness, and someone could die. This is your reality now, where every drop of sweat, every strained muscle contributes to structures that will outlast you by millennia. Your skin burns crimson under the merciless Roman sun. If you thought sunbathing without SPF 50 was risky, try chiseling stone for 10 hours with nothing but olive oil on your skin. The Mediterranean heat beats down relentlessly, searing your exposed shoulders and neck until they blister and peel. Your modern body, accustomed to air conditioning and shade, rebels against this constant assault. When the rain comes, you'd trade anything for a Gore-Tex jacket. Your soaked wool tunic clings to your shivering body, doubling in weight as it absorbs the downpour. Mud sucks at your leather sandals with each step along the aqueduct path. If modern humans complain about forgetting umbrellas, imagine your life now, working through storms with no waterproof gear, your fingers numbed and cracked, unable to escape the elements for hours. The winter chill penetrates your bones at dawn as you begin work. Your breath forms clouds in the frigid air while your fingers, stiff and aching, struggle to grip tools. If you've ever complained about a cold office, this would break you. No thermal underwear exists here. No insulated gloves to protect your hands as they handle frozen stone and metal. Your teeth chatter uncontrollably as you chip away, hour after miserable hour. The midday heat brings no relief, only different torments. Your head pounds from dehydration as sweat stings your eyes. If you've experienced heat exhaustion once, here it becomes your daily companion. Your modern body, unaccustomed to such conditions, would regularly succumb to dizziness and nausea. You'd watch fellow workers collapse beside you, some never to rise again, victims of heat that your 21st century existence never prepared you for. Your skin ages years in months under this constant exposure. Windburn chaps your lips and cheeks until they crack and bleed. Dust whipped up by sudden gusts embeds itself in your pores and eyes. If you worried about premature aging in your modern life, here your smooth skin would transform into leathery parchment within a single season. Without sunglasses, your eyes squint constantly against the glare, etching permanent lines around them. Your modern immune system falters under these conditions. Constant weather exposure weakens your defenses against illnesses that Romans have adapted to over generations. If you thought catching a cold from rain was old wives' tale, your reality here proves otherwise. Fevers and chills cycle through your body as you work through sickness, no sick days permitted. The engineer demands progress, regardless of weather or your physical state. This is your life now, perpetually at the mercy of elements you once controlled. You stand at the base of the towering aqueduct construction, your neck craning as you look up at the dizzying height. If you were to work here, there would be no safety briefing, no harness fitting, no hard hat issued. Just a foreman's gruff order to climb that flimsy wooden scaffold and start hauling stone. Your palms sweat at the thought. Modern OSHA regulations feel like a distant dream in this world where your life is worth less than the day's progress. The wooden scaffold creaks beneath your feet as you edge out onto a narrow plank. 40 feet below, the ground seems to spin. Your knuckles whiten as you grip the rough wood. If you were to slip now, there would be no safety net to catch you, no emergency response team standing by, just the hard earth waiting. The other workers seem unbothered, laughing and shouting to each other as they balance with casual confidence born of necessity. Your task is to help set a massive stone block into place at the top of an arch. The rope digging into your palms is your only lifeline as you and 5 others strain to position the heavy load. If your grip falters, someone dies. Maybe you, maybe the man working below. The foreman shouts impatiently from below. In your time, this would have been a job for a crane with multiple safety backups. Here, it's just human muscle, rough hemp rope, and the constant companion of fear. The summer sun beats down relentlessly, making the stone hot to touch and your head swim with heat. You've seen 3 men collapse already today, but there are no mandatory water breaks, no shade requirements. Your mouth is parched, your muscles trembling with fatigue. If you could survive modern construction sites with their strict regulations, this casual disregard for human limits feels like madness. Yet, all around you, your fellow workers endure, knowing their families eat only if they work. You witness an accident on your 3rd day. A man loses his footing on a rain-slick beam and plummets with a scream that haunts your dreams. There's no incident report, no investigation, no safety stand down. His broken body is simply carried away, and work resumes within the hour. The other workers cross themselves, mutter prayers, but keep working. Tomorrow someone new will take his place. Your life here balances as precariously as you do on these narrow stone arches. At night, in your crowded workers' quarters, you listen to the old-timers comparing injuries like badges of honor. Missing fingers, crushed toes, broken bones set poorly, all considered simply part of the job. If you were to suggest modern safety measures, guardrails, harnesses, proper scaffolding, they would laugh at your softness. Your neighbors bear their scars with pride, measuring their worth by their ability to face death daily and return home. Tomorrow you'll climb those heights again, with nothing but skill and luck between you and eternity. If you were to fall from scaffolding while working on that new temple to Jupiter, your fate would be grim. No ambulances would rush to your aid. No paramedics with modern equipment. Instead, fellow laborers might carry you on a wooden plank to the nearest medicus, blood trailing behind you through dusty streets. Your screams would draw little attention. Construction accidents were commonplace in your world, and passers-by barely glanced your way. Your broken bones would be set without anesthesia, nothing but a strip of leather between your teeth to bite down on. The medicus, his hands still bloody from the previous patient, would wrench your limbs back into place with practiced efficiency. The searing pain would make you faint, a blessing truly. If fortunate, you might receive a crude tincture of opium and wine, but most often your only relief would be unconsciousness itself. Your wound would be cleaned with wine, not for drinking, but as the closest thing to antiseptic your world possessed. The medicus might cauterize bleeding vessels with hot iron, the smell of your own burning flesh filling your nostrils. Infection remained your greatest enemy. That small puncture wound from a rusty nail? In your time it could turn gangrenous within days, the spreading blackness requiring amputation. Another procedure you'd endure fully conscious. Your recovery would happen at home, not in a hospital. Your small room would become your sickbed, with family members or slaves tending to you if you were fortunate enough to have them. The wealthy might summon a physician daily, but as a common laborer, you'd likely see the medicus only once. Herbal poultices, prayers to Asclepius, and crude splints would constitute your aftercare. Many of your fellow workers never return to the scaffolding. Your survival would depend largely on luck. That cut that modern antibiotics would easily cure. In your Roman life, it might kill you slowly as infection spread through your bloodstream. The fever would come first, then the delirium. Your neighbors might hear your cries through the thin walls, but could offer little help beyond folk remedies. The gods themselves seem to decide your fate more than any medical intervention available in your time. If you survived your injury, you might bear its mark forever. No physical therapy would restore your strength. No reconstructive surgery would erase your scars. Your livelihood might vanish with your ability to labor. The streets of Rome teemed with former builders, now beggars, displaying their workplace injuries as badges of misfortune. Your world accepted this reality without question, the human cost of raising the greatest city on earth, paid in blood and broken bodies. Your stomach growls as you stare at the same bowl of porridge that constitutes your main meal, a thick, bland pulse made from boiled emmer wheat. If you're fortunate, it might contain a sprinkle of salt or a drizzle of olive oil. This gruel forms the foundation of your daily sustenance, morning and evening, with little variation to anticipate. Your modern palate, accustomed to flavor and variety, rebels against the monotony. Your body craves nutrients that simply aren't available. Fresh vegetables appear rarely on your plate, and when they do, they're limited to cabbage, onions, or whatever grows locally in season. Meat? That's a luxury you might taste once a month if lucky. Your teeth ache for something to truly chew. Your body yearns for protein. The constant hunger isn't for quantity, but quality, a sensation your ancestors never had words to describe. By midday, your energy plummets. The morning's pulse is long digested, leaving you light-headed as you lift another stone. Your modern understanding of nutrition tells you what's missing: protein, vitamins, essential minerals, but here you simply know unrelenting fatigue. Your fellow workers seem accustomed to this perpetual weariness, having never known the sustained energy of a balanced diet. Your gums bleed easily. Your skin develops strange rashes. Without citrus fruits, your body lacks vitamin C. Without dairy products regularly available, your bones gradually weaken. The occasional handful of dried figs or dates does little to compensate. You witness older workers with bent backs, missing teeth, and perpetual ailments, living testaments to decades of nutritional neglect that await you too. Your digestive system rebels against the coarse, grain-heavy diet. The bread contains stone fragments from the milling process that wear down your teeth with every bite. Intestinal parasites are common companions, as food preparation lacks modern sanitation. The chronic discomfort becomes background noise to your existence. Stomach cramps, constipation, occasional dysentery ailments you'd seek medical attention for in your time are simply life here. Water provides little relief, often contaminated despite Rome's engineering marvels. Your daily drink is posca, watered-down sour wine that kills some pathogens, but introduces its own problems. The slight alcoholic content becomes a crutch, dulling hunger pangs and pain. You find yourself craving this drink not for pleasure, but necessity, understanding now why these workers seem perpetually caught between exhaustion and resignation. Your back aches as the overseer's shadow falls across you. "Work faster, dog," he barks, striking your shoulder with his vine staff. If you dare look up, the punishment would be worse. There are no laws protecting you here, no tribunals to hear complaints from those who build Rome's glory. Your worth is measured only by the strength in your arms and how much abuse you can endure without breaking. Your mistake was small. A chisel slipped, marring the stone, but the consequences are severe. The supervisor drags you before the other workers as an example. If you were a citizen with connections, you might escape with a fine. But you're nothing to them. The lash tears across your back 5 times while your fellow laborers avert their eyes, knowing they could be next for any perceived failing. Your living quarters reek of sweat and desperation. Crammed with 8 others into a space barely large enough for 3, you sleep on straw that hasn't been changed in months. If you could survive public toilets and communal bathing, this squalor might seem bearable. But after 14 hours of hauling stone, Your body broken and bleeding, even this filthy corner feels like a blessing, because at least here, no one is striking you. Your stomach growls constantly. The daily ration, a bowl of porridge and hard bread, barely sustains you through the morning. Water, at least, is plentiful, though often fouled. Your foreman takes pleasure in withholding food for minor infractions. Hungry men work harder, he sneers. In your time, workers would demand fair treatment. Here, such thoughts are dangerous luxuries that could cost you your meager existence. Your fellow laborers become your only allies in this brutal world. At night, you whisper together, sharing small comforts, a stolen fruit, a soothing herb for wounds. The man beside you was once a farmer before debt enslaved him. The youth across the room was captured in Gaul. If you speak too loudly of better conditions, the informers would report you. Tomorrow you disappear, sent to the mines where few survive a year. Your body bears the marks of your labor. Calloused hands, scarred back, fingers permanently bent from gripping tools. The magnificent structures rising around Rome come at the cost of countless broken bodies like yours. In your time, there would be compensation for injury, limits on working hours, basic human dignity. Here, you are merely a tool to be used until broken, then discarded without thought or ceremony. Your sleeping quarters are nothing like the private bedroom you once took for granted. Instead, you're crammed into a low-ceilinged communal space with dozens of other workers, bodies pressed against each other on hard wooden platforms. The stale air fills your nostrils as you lie down, the sounds of snoring, coughing, and midnight conversations surrounding you. If you value personal space, you've entered a nightmare from which there's no waking. Your bed is merely a thin layer of straw spread over unyielding wooden planks. The coarse material pokes through the threadbare blanket, jabbing into your skin throughout the night. You've learned to position yourself carefully to avoid the worst splinters. The wooden platform creaks with every movement, not just yours, but those of your neighbors too, ensuring that whenever someone turns, you're instantly awake again. The itch begins as soon as you lie down. Tiny, unwelcome companions make their presence known. Lice, fleas, and bedbugs that have claimed your bedding as their territory long before you arrived. You scratch until your skin is raw, but there's no escape. If you thought modern mosquitoes were annoying, these persistent Roman pests make them seem trivial by comparison. Your blood is their nightly feast. Privacy is a luxury you no longer possess. Every bodily function, every change of clothing, every moment of weakness or vulnerability is on display. Your neighbors know when you struggle to sleep, when you wake from nightmares, even when nature calls in the middle of the night. The concept of personal space has vanished, replaced by a communal existence where nothing remains truly yours, not even your moments of rest. The sounds and smells are perhaps the worst part of your nightly ordeal. Snoring competes with coughing, wheezing, and occasional moans of pain from workers nursing injuries. The stench of unwashed bodies mingles with the odors of stale sweat, urine from the corner chamber pot, and the lingering smell of garlic from the evening meal. Your nose never quite adjusts, no matter how many weeks pass. Sleep deprivation becomes your constant companion. Between the physical discomfort, the noise, the parasites, and the early morning wake-up calls, you rarely achieve more than a few hours of broken rest. Your body aches for the comfort of your former life, for a mattress, for silence, for solitude. But there are no laws to protect your right to decent accommodations, no standards to uphold. This is simply how it is. If you could stomach the public toilets of ancient Rome, you'd be braver than most modern visitors. Your daily ablutions would take place on a stone bench with holes cut into it, sitting shoulder to shoulder with dozens of other Romans. No dividers, no privacy. As you take your place on the cold stone, you'd notice everyone chatting casually, as if this shared experience were perfectly normal. Your private business is now a social affair. Reaching for toilet paper? Think again. Your options are limited to a communal sponge on a stick, soaking in a channel of running water before you. This xylospongium is shared by everyone using the latrine. You'd hesitate, watching as your neighbor returns the sponge to the water after use. The concept of personal hygiene as you know it doesn't exist here. Your nostrils would fill with the pungent smell of human waste and fermented fish sauce from the garum factory next door. Your feet would rest on floors often slick with urine and worse. The running water beneath the toilet bench does little to mask the stench. Unlike your private bathroom at home, this space teems with vermin. Rats scurry along the edges of the room, and if you're particularly unlucky, you might feel the terrifying sensation of a sewer rat attempting to climb up through the toilet hole beneath you. Your instinct to flee would battle with your body's urgent needs. There are no laws protecting your health here. The miasma of human waste hangs in the air, carrying diseases you've never had to worry about. Dysentery, typhoid, and intestinal parasites run rampant through the population. Your modern immune system would be overwhelmed by the bacterial assault. The wealthy Romans in their villas have private toilets, but you, as an ordinary citizen, must endure these communal conditions daily, risking your health with every visit. Your modern sensibilities about bathroom privacy would be constantly assaulted. As you sit, a stranger might take the spot right beside you and strike up a conversation about the latest gladiatorial games. Business deals are even conducted here. Your discomfort at discussing trade agreements while relieving yourself would be met with confusion by your Roman counterparts. This is normal to them. Your embarrassment marks you as an outsider in their world. When you've finished, you'd find no sink to wash your hands. A quick rinse in the water channel that houses the communal sponge would be your only option for cleanliness. You'd leave the latrine carrying invisible pathogens, heading to eat your next meal with the same hands. Your likelihood of surviving to old age in these conditions would be remarkably lower than in your modern world. The simple act of using the toilet could be a death sentence in disguise. Your nostrils flare at the overwhelming stench as you approach your fellow workers. If modern hygiene standards were applied here, the entire construction site would be shut down immediately. The men surrounding you bathe perhaps once every few weeks, if at all. Their tunics, stained with weeks of sweat, dirt, and food, cling to unwashed bodies. You fight the urge to gag as the foreman leans in, his breath a noxious cloud of decay and yesterday's garlic. Your teeth ache constantly. Without toothpaste or effective dental tools, you've resorted to rubbing your teeth with a cloth and occasionally using a twig as a makeshift toothpick. The man working beside you grins, revealing brown, rotting teeth or empty gaps where teeth once were. This is your future too. The persistent pain in your back molar reminds you that when it becomes unbearable, your only option will be extraction without anesthesia. Your skin itches incessantly. Lice and fleas have made your body and clothing their home, as they have for everyone around you. You scratch furiously at your scalp, feeling the tiny parasites beneath your fingernails. The olive oil you occasionally rub on your skin provides momentary relief from the dryness, but does nothing for the bites and rashes. Your ankles and wrists are red and inflamed from constant scratching, a condition you now share with the entire workforce. The public latrines turn your stomach each time you're forced to use them. You sit shoulder to shoulder with other men on stone benches with circular openings, no privacy whatsoever. The communal sponge on a stick, rinsed in a water channel between uses, is your only option for cleaning yourself. You've witnessed others develop painful infections from these facilities. Despite the impressive aqueduct system, the concept of sanitation remains primitive, and you've learned to endure rather than expect cleanliness. Your weekly visit to the public baths provides temporary relief, though the water grows increasingly murky as the day progresses. You scrape oil and dirt from your skin with a curved metal strigil, watching the accumulated grime of days fall away. The hot rooms make you sweat profusely, opening your pores. Yet you're keenly aware that you're soaking in the same water as dozens of others, some with visible skin diseases. By tomorrow, the layer of grime will begin rebuilding on your body. Your small room in the insula reeks of body odor, cooking smells, and the chamber pot you empty just once daily. Without deodorant, your attempts to mask your smell with herb-infused oils provide only brief respite. The linen tunic you've worn all week clings to your back, stiff with dried sweat. Most remarkable is how quickly you've grown accustomed to this filth. The standards you once considered basic necessities now seem like unimaginable luxuries. This is simply life for you and everyone around you. If you were thirsty in ancient Rome before the aqueducts, your life hung in the balance with every sip. The well near your cramped insular apartment reeked of sewage that seeped through the porous soil. You'd lower your bucket anyway, desperate for water after a day's labor. Your neighbors had fallen ill last week from the same water. Some recovered, some didn't. Yet, what choice did you have? Thirst demanded satisfaction, even when satisfaction might bring death. The Tiber River flowed through the heart of your city, a convenient source for those who couldn't access wells. You'd watch as your fellow laborers filled jugs directly from its brown waters, even as tanners, dyers, and butchers dumped their waste upstream. The same river carried human excrement from public latrines. If you were desperate enough to drink from it, violent stomach cramps would be your companion by nightfall, fever your bedfellow, and diarrhea your midnight tormentor. Springs offered your best hope for clean water if you could make the journey. You'd rise before dawn, walking miles outside the city walls to fill your amphora at a bubbling spring. The water tasted sweet compared to your neighborhood well, but even these sources weren't safe. Invisible to your eyes, microscopic killers lurked in the clearest waters. Typhoid, dysentery, and cholera claimed countless lives in your community, striking without warning or mercy. Your understanding of water safety relied on simple observations. Clear, sweet-tasting water meant good. Cloudy, foul-smelling water meant danger. Yet this primitive test failed you regularly. Your friend's children died last summer after drinking from a crystalline stream. The connection between water and disease remained a mystery in your world. No authorities tested your water sources. No officials monitored contamination levels. Your survival depended on luck as much as judgment. If you could afford it, you'd drink wine instead of water. The alcohol killed some pathogens, though you only knew that it seemed safer. Your poorer neighbors diluted their wine with water, undermining this protection. The wealthy in the hilltop villas suffered less, accessing cleaner spring sources or paying for water carried from distant mountains. Your position in society determined not just your comfort, but your chances of survival against invisible waterborne enemies. The aqueducts would eventually transform your world, bringing mountain fresh water directly into the city. But for now, you lived in constant peril from the very substance essential to life. Each morning you'd make the same calculation, risk drinking questionable water or suffer certain dehydration. Your body bore the consequences of this daily gamble, weakened by recurring illness, aging prematurely from constant battles with waterborne invaders that modern science would one day identify and defeat. Your pantry is a battlefield, constantly under siege. If you've ever complained about a few ants in your kitchen, imagine your food stores teeming with beetles, weevils, and flies. They're not occasional visitors, but permanent residents. You'd brush aside insects before each meal, picking out the visible ones while inevitably consuming others. The wealthy might have slaves to inspect their food. You simply accept the extra protein in your daily bread. Your battle against rodents would be constant and largely futile. Rats and mice claim their share of your provisions nightly, leaving droppings as payment. Without sealed containers, your precious flour, dried fruits, and grains become communal property. The gnawed edges of your food stores tell the story each morning. You develop a tolerance for what modern standards would consider utterly unacceptable, scraping away the contaminated portions when possible. Summer heat transforms your food storage into a race against time. Without refrigeration, meat begins to spoil within hours. You'd become intimately familiar with the early signs of decay, the subtle shifts in smell and color that signal the countdown has begun. Fish purchased in the morning forum might be questionable by evening meal. Your senses would sharpen to detect the first hints of rancidity, a survival skill in a world where tomorrow's meal is never guaranteed. Your preservation methods would seem primitive but ingenious. Salt becomes precious gold, drawing moisture from meat and fish to extend their life. Honey, with its natural antibacterial properties, preserves your fruits. You'd hang herbs to dry from your ceiling beams, filling your small dwelling with dangling bunches of rosemary and thyme. Oil submersion, vinegar pickling, smoking and drying become your arsenal against the inevitable decay, though each method brings its own distinct flavor, whether intended or not. Your stomach would develop a resilience unknown to modern people. Foods you'd consume without thought would send your contemporaries rushing to emergency rooms. The mild food poisoning that leaves you bedridden for a day would be so common as to barely warrant mention. You'd attribute these frequent illnesses to bad air or imbalanced humors, never suspecting the invisible bacteria flourishing in your partially spoiled provisions. Your intestinal fortitude would be legendary by today's standards. If you were wealthy, your slaves would taste your food first, not just for poison, but for spoilage. If you were poor, your children's hunger would override concerns about that slightly sour smell or odd taste. The garum sauce you'd liberally apply to meals fermented fish intestines that reek to high heaven would mask many flavors of decay. Your palate would adapt, finding delicacy and fermentation that modern tongues might register only as rot. Your tunic scratches against your skin as you haul another stone into place. Made from coarse wool, the fabric feels like sandpaper with every movement. You've worn this same garment for weeks now, the sweat and grime becoming one with the fibers. Unlike modern moisture-wicking fabrics, your clothing absorbs everything: the dust, the sweat, the smell of hard labor, and holds it against your irritated skin like a punishment. If you could survive the constant itching, the rashes would still torment you. Red welts form where the fabric rubs your shoulders raw, and the seams leave angry marks across your chest. Your body odor mingles with the smell of the unwashed wool until you can barely distinguish between them. No deodorant, no fabric softener, no gentle cycle on a washing machine. Just you, your increasingly foul tunic, and the judgment of those who catch a whiff as you pass. Your attempts at cleaning your garments are exercises in futility. You pound your tunic against rocks at the public fountain, using lye soap that burns your hands. The harsh chemicals and rough treatment damage the fibers, but barely touch the ingrained filth. The stains from mortar, blood from minor injuries, and weeks of sweat create a tapestry of your labor that no amount of scrubbing can erase. When you put it back on, still damp, it feels only marginally better than before. Your clothing hosts unwelcome guests. Lice and fleas make their homes in the seams of your garments, emerging at night to feast. You scratch constantly, sometimes drawing blood, adding new stains to your already filthy tunic. Unlike modern times where parasitic infestations would be considered a health emergency, for you they're simply another daily discomfort. You share this misery with your fellow workers, all of you scratching in unison as you labor under the hot sun. The social hierarchy is woven into the very fabric you wear. Your rough, stained tunic marks you instantly as a laborer, a member of the lower classes. When you walk through the forum after work, wealthier citizens wrinkle their noses and step aside. There are no laws protecting you from this treatment. Your clothing is both your uniform and your social prison. The fine, clean tunics of the wealthy seem to belong to another world entirely, one you can see but never touch. Your dreams at night often feature the simple luxury of clean, soft clothing. How different your life would be with specialized workwear, with garments that protected rather than punished your skin. Instead, you wake each morning to the same reality, pulling on yesterday's filthy tunic, feeling the familiar scratch against your skin, inhaling the sour smell of your own labor. This is the hidden cost of building Rome's grandeur, your comfort sacrificed on the altar of imperial ambition. Your hands tremble slightly as you walk past the construction site where men in chains heave massive stones into place. If you avert your eyes, you're complicit. If you stare too long, the overseer might mark you as a troublemaker. The boundary between free citizen and slave feels paper-thin in this Roman world. Your own freedom, which you once took for granted, now seems fragile, conditional, a privilege that could be stripped away with one unfortunate turn of events. Your neighbor disappeared last month after failing to repay a loan. Now he works in the mines, they say. His children sold to separate households. Oh, you pass his empty home daily, a hollow reminder that your security hangs by a thread. One bad harvest, one illness, one accusation of theft. And you too could be stripped of your humanity, transformed from person to property. The thought follows you like a shadow as you carefully count your coins at the market. At dinner, your host proudly introduces his new household servant, purchased yesterday. The young man serves wine with downcast eyes, while conversation flows around him as if he were merely furniture. You smile politely, but your stomach churns. Back home, you'd call this kidnapping, imprisonment, a human rights violation. Here, it's simply commerce. You take the offered cup, your fingers briefly touching those of a person legally classified as less than human. You've learned to recognize the brands and scars that mark the unfree. The public baths, once a place of relaxation, now reveal the physical toll of ownership. Welts from whips, burn marks from punishment, the telltale F for fugitivus on foreheads of those who once attempted escape. You scrub your skin harder than necessary, as if washing away your participation in this system. Yet you know that every building you enter, every road you walk upon, was built by hands that had no choice. Your legal knowledge grows daily. You understand now that if you strike a free man, you pay a fine. If you strike a slave, you compensate their owner for damaged property. In the Forum, you witness a trial where a man who killed his own slave faces no charges, merely questions about his wasteful destruction of valuable property. The magistrate seems more concerned with the financial loss than the extinguished life. You feel sick, but say nothing. Speaking out marks you as dangerously radical. At night, you lie awake wondering how quickly you've adapted to this moral nightmare. You've stopped flinching at the sight of human auctions. You've learned to negotiate fair prices with shopkeepers who own people. Your principles, once so certain, blur at the edges as survival demands compromise. The most terrifying realization isn't the brutality of this world. It's how easily you're learning to live within it, how the unthinkable becomes merely uncomfortable, then eventually normal. If you were born into a common family in Rome, the law wasn't designed for you. As you walked through the Forum, you'd pass the courts where justice was dispensed, but not equally. Your wealthy neighbor could strike you in public, and unless you had a powerful patron to speak for you, your complaints would fall on deaf ears. The scales of justice tipped heavily toward those with wealth and connections, leaving you to navigate life with caution. Your daily work in the shop offered no protections. If your employer decided to withhold your meager wages, you had no recourse. If you fell from scaffolding at a construction site, medical costs were yours alone to bear. The wealthy citizens who commissioned these buildings faced no consequences for unsafe conditions. You'd watch injured workers begging in the streets, a stark reminder of your precarious position should misfortune strike. Your landlord could evict you without notice, doubling your rent on a whim. Living in your cramped insular apartment, you'd hear neighbors' stories of sudden homelessness. The urban praetor who enforced civil law rarely concerned himself with disputes between commoners and property owners. You'd carefully count your coins each month, knowing that challenging your landlord's demands might result in finding your belongings tossed into the street. If you witnessed a crime against a powerful citizen, you'd be compelled to testify. But should you be the victim, your words carried little weight. The praetors and judges, all from the elite classes, viewed your testimony with skepticism. You'd stand in court, watching the defendant's wealthy friends vouch for his character, while your bruises were still fresh. Justice wasn't blind in Rome. It saw social status with perfect clarity. Your daily interactions with patricians required constant deference. Should a senator's son take offense at your manner of speaking, you could face severe punishment. You'd carefully avert your eyes when the wealthy passed, knowing that accidental disrespect could bring ruin. While modern courts might presume your innocence, in your Roman reality, your lower status made you presumed guilty when accused by your betters. Even your body wasn't legally protected. If you owed a debt you couldn't repay, creditors could claim you as property. You'd hear whispered stories of debtors forced into labor until their obligations were satisfied, sometimes for years. Each night, you'd carefully track your finances by lamplight, knowing that in this society, your freedom existed only as long as your solvency. The law that governed Rome wasn't meant to protect you. It was designed to control you. You wake each morning knowing violence could find you at any moment. Walking through Roman streets, you instinctively scan for threats. Not just criminals, but everyday citizens who might strike a slave for stumbling, or soldiers who could beat someone for disrespect. The casual backhand across a servant's face that would horrify you in your previous life barely draws a glance here. Violence isn't hidden away. It's woven into the very fabric of daily existence. If you were to speak out against a public flogging, you'd be met with bewildered stares. Physical punishment isn't just legal, it's expected. Your modern sensibilities recoil as you pass the whipping post where debtors are beaten, while crowds gather, some wincing sympathetically, others shouting encouragement to the flogger. Blood on the cobblestones is as unremarkable as rainwater, washed away by slaves without comment. Your neighbors invite you to the arena as casually as to dinner. The execution before lunch is particularly creative, they tell you with anticipation. The gladiatorial games that follow aren't just entertainment. They're religious ceremonies, civic duties, political statements. You sit among cheering crowds as men fight to the death, their pain transformed into spectacle. The copper smell of blood fills your nostrils, while those around you debate fighting techniques between bites of food. Children play with toy swords and gladiator figures in the street outside your home. They recreate yesterday's death matches with disturbing accuracy, arguing over who gets to play the Thracian who gouged his opponent's eyes. You realize with a chill that these children aren't traumatized. They're being socialized. Violence isn't something they're sheltered from. It's a lesson they're expected to learn, preparing them for a world where strength means survival. Your own body betrays your foreign sensibilities. You flinch when an argument in the marketplace turns physical. You turn pale at the sight of a criminal's severed hand nailed to a post, a common warning that locals barely notice. The psychological toll mounts as you struggle to reconcile your innate aversion to violence with its omnipresence. At night, your dreams fill with the day's brutalities, yet you must appear unfazed to avoid marking yourself as weak. If you survive long enough, the most terrifying transformation begins. Adaptation. The day you walk past a crucifixion without averting your eyes, the evening you find yourself leaning forward at the games, the moment you raise your hand to strike a servant, these are the milestones of your Romanization. Violence seeps into your consciousness not as an aberration, but as the natural order. Your previous life's moral certainties dissolve in this blood-soaked reality that now, horrifyingly, begins to feel like home. As a woman in Rome, you exist as property, not a person. Your father owns you until he transfers that ownership to your husband. You cannot vote, hold office, or make legal decisions without a male guardian's approval. Your education is limited to household management, regardless of your intelligence or ambition. The freedoms you took for granted in modern life, career choices, property ownership, even deciding whom to marry, have vanished. Your voice has been silenced in a society that views you as perpetually childlike. Your daily movements are restricted and monitored. Without your guardian's permission, you cannot leave your home unescorted. The bustling forum, the exciting political debates, the public baths during prime hours, all closed to you. Even your own finances remain beyond your control. The money you brought to your marriage belongs to your husband now. If he dies, you don't inherit automatically. Your male relatives decide your fate. Your existence is defined by the men around you, your identity subsumed into theirs. Your body is not your own. Your primary value lies in producing legitimate heirs for your husband's family. If you're infertile, you may be divorced without ceremony. Contraception is primitive and unreliable. Pregnancy is dangerous, with many women dying in childbirth. If you survive, you'll likely watch some of your children die before reaching adulthood. And should you be born into servitude rather than a citizen family, your situation is far worse. Your body available for your master's use at any time, with no legal protection against abuse. Your worth is measured by your chastity and obedience. The double standard is stark. Your husband can freely visit prostitutes and keep concubines, but your suspected infidelity could result in divorce or worse. You've heard whispers of women beaten to death by their husbands for adultery, with no legal consequences. Even your clothing marks your status. The stola you wear signifies you as a respectable married woman, distinct from the prostitutes and female servants who have no such protection from male advances. If you're fortunate enough to be born into wealth, you might enjoy some privileges, hosting dinner parties, influencing your husband privately, managing household slaves. But these small freedoms exist only within the confines of your domestic sphere. The construction sites, military camps, and political assemblies remain closed to you. Your daughters will inherit your restrictions, your sons your husband's privileges. This rigid separation creates a society where half its talent and intelligence is systematically suppressed, limiting human potential across generations. You might find small rebellions, secret literacy, influence through male relatives, religious ceremonies where women briefly hold authority. Some exceptional women do manage to exert power through wealth or family connections, but these are exceptions that prove the rule. Your modern understanding of partnership, equality, and shared humanity clashes violently with Roman reality. Here, the separation between male and female experience isn't just social. It's enshrined in law, custom, and religious practice. Your gender determines not just your opportunities, but your fundamental worth as a human being. Your accent betrays you the moment you open your mouth in the forum. Eyes narrow, conversations halt, and merchants suddenly raise their prices. As a non-Roman, your provincial origins mark you instantly. The wealthy patrician who bumps into you doesn't apologize. Instead, he expects you to lower your gaze and step aside. Your Greek accent or Gallic features aren't just differences here. They're stains on your character, according to those who consider themselves true Romans. Your landlord charges you double what Roman citizens pay for the same squalid room. If you protest, there's no tribunal to hear your case. No laws protect foreigners from such treatment. Your Syrian heritage or Egyptian background makes you perpetually suspect, regardless of your skills or character. Walking through certain neighborhoods after dark would be foolish. The vigiles might question you simply for your appearance, and their methods of interrogation aren't gentle. Your children face taunts in the streets: barbarian, foreign filth, conquered scum. If you were born in Britannia or raised in Judea, your children inherit your stigma. Unlike today's multicultural classrooms, your offspring sit apart from Roman children if they're allowed education at all. The schoolmaster makes examples of them, mocking their accents and customs. You tell them to endure, to keep their heads down, knowing that showing anger only confirms Roman prejudices about your uncivilized nature. Your talents mean nothing if your skin is darker or your name sounds foreign. You might be the finest craftsman in your trade, yet Romans seek out inferior workmanship from their countrymen instead. The military offers some escape. If you survive 25 years of service, you might earn citizenship. But even as a veteran, your comrades in arms with Italian blood receive better postings, faster promotions, and larger land grants upon retirement. Your religion marks you too. While Romans appropriate gods from everywhere, practicing your native rites openly invites suspicion. Your Egyptian Isis worship or Persian Mithraism must be practiced in secret gatherings. The casual racism permeates daily life. Romans boast of conquering your homeland in their poetry and art, celebrating the subjugation of your people. In their theaters, actors portray your countrymen as buffoons or villains, drawing raucous laughter from Roman audiences. Your dreams remain constrained by birth. If you're exceptionally wealthy or useful to the right patron, you might transcend some boundaries. But you'll never fully belong. Your grandchildren might, if they marry Romans, adopt Roman ways and erase their heritage. This is the price of advancement, cultural suicide. Unlike today's celebration of diversity, your difference isn't valued. It's an obstacle to overcome, a stain to wash away, a past to forget if you hope to thrive in the shadow of Rome. If you lived in Rome, your religious practices would never be truly private. Your devotion belongs first to the state gods and the divine emperor. Your personal beliefs? Irrelevant. Each morning you'd pass neighborhood shrines where you must stop, make offerings, and demonstrate your loyalty. Refusing would mark you as suspicious, possibly seditious. The freedom to worship according to your conscience? Such a concept doesn't exist here. Your neighbors are watching, ready to report any deviation from expected rituals. As a monotheist in Rome, your life hangs by a thread. Your Jewish or Christian beliefs are viewed with suspicion and contempt. You gather in secret, drawing strange symbols to identify safe houses. The fish etched discreetly on doorways guides you to fellow believers. Your prayers are whispered behind closed doors, your sacred texts hidden beneath floorboards. Discovery means facing an impossible choice: renounce your God or face imprisonment, torture, or execution in the arena. The Emperor's festival approaches, and dread fills your stomach. You must participate in the sacrifice, or be branded an enemy of Rome. The smell of burning incense fills the forum as citizens toss grains into flames before the Emperor's statue. When your turn comes, all eyes watch for your devotion. A simple pinch of incense, such a small gesture with such enormous consequences. Your hesitation is already drawing attention. What will you choose? Compromise your faith or risk everything? Your refusal to participate in emperor worship has consequences beyond yourself. Your family now bears your shame, your children bullied in the streets, your business customers vanishing overnight. The local magistrate has doubled your taxes. Your name appears on a list of potential troublemakers. When soldiers march through town, they linger outside your home. Your neighbors no longer meet your eyes. They've distanced themselves, fearing association with someone who has challenged Rome's divine order. The state festivals punctuate your year with anxiety. Saturnalia, Lupercalia, countless holy days dedicated to gods you don't believe in. Each celebration forces impossible choices upon you. Your absence would be noted, your participation a betrayal of conscience. You've developed careful strategies, arriving late, leaving early, standing at the edges. But the new edict requires all citizens to sign a document confirming their participation in sacrifices. Your carefully maintained balance between survival and faith is collapsing. You've heard whispers of remote communities where believers live freely, perhaps in the mountains or distant provinces where Rome's grip loosens. But escape requires abandoning everything: your home, livelihood, extended family. The journey itself could mean death. Last month your friend disappeared attempting such an escape. Was he captured? Did he find freedom? You'll never know. Tonight, as you perform the required household rituals with hollow gestures, you wonder how much longer you can maintain this dangerous charade. If you cut your finger while building the aqueduct today, you'd face more than just pain. That small gash could be your death sentence. Without antibiotics, the simplest wounds festered. You'd watch helplessly as red streaks crawled up your arm, the skin around your cut swelling, hot to touch. By nightfall, fever would set in. Your fellow laborers would eye you warily, knowing what was coming. They'd seen it before, too many times. Your options for treatment would be primitive at best. The medicus might cauterize your wound with hot iron, excruciating but sometimes effective. Perhaps he'd apply a poultice of moldy bread, unknowingly utilizing the same principles as modern penicillin, but far less reliable. Wine would be poured over the wound, a rudimentary antiseptic. You'd pray to Asclepius, god of healing, because divine intervention seemed as likely as recovery. Many of your neighbors had died from wounds you wouldn't even visit a doctor for today. Tetanus lurked in the soil of your garden. on the rusty nails of your workshop. One puncture wound and lockjaw would follow. Your jaw would seize first, then your neck would arch backward. The spasms would spread, your body contorting in agony. You'd remain conscious through it all, unable to swallow, struggling to breathe. Your family would watch, powerless, as your body bent like a bow during convulsions. Today, a simple vaccination prevents this torture. You had no such protection. Gangrene would be your greatest fear. That splinter from the wooden scaffolding could lead to blackened, rotting flesh. You'd smell it before you saw it. The sickly, sweet odor of dying tissue. The surgeon's solution is brutal amputation without anesthesia. 4 strong men would hold you down as a saw cut through bone. If the shock didn't kill you, infection often would. Your life could end from a wound so minor you'd treat it yourself with a modern first aid kit. Your daily life would be haunted by the specter of infection. You'd clean wounds with urine, believing its ammonia content would prevent disease. Sometimes it helped. Often it didn't. Honey might be applied as an antimicrobial, one of the few effective treatments available. You'd wrap injuries in clean linen if you could afford it, dirty cloth if you couldn't. The wealthy suffered less, but even the emperor himself wasn't immune. Death from infection was the great equalizer in your world. If you survived to old age, you'd bear the scars of countless infections. Your body would tell the story of near-death experiences from wounds modern people would consider trivial. You'd have watched friends die slowly from infected splinters, children taken by simple cuts. This constant threat would shape your worldview, make you cautious in ways modern humans can't comprehend. The invisible killers in your blood were more feared than barbarian hordes. In your world, a scratch was never just a scratch. It was a potential death sentence. The throbbing agony in your lower back intensifies as you lift another stone. Pain is your constant companion in this Roman world, where effective medication simply doesn't exist. You bite down on a strip of leather as the muscles in your back spasm violently. Unlike your future life, where pain relief would be just a pill away, here you must endure what your body inflicts upon you, hour after merciless hour. Your options for relief are pitifully few. If you're fortunate enough to have a few coins, you might purchase cheap wine to dull your senses. The wealthy patricians have access to opium from distant lands. But you'll never taste such luxury. Instead, you crush willow bark between your teeth, hoping its bitter essence might somehow ease your suffering, though it barely touches the edges of your agony. Your neighbors respect only stoicism in the face of suffering. When you cut your hand deeply on a jagged stone yesterday, the site overseer merely glanced at the wound before ordering you back to work. You wrapped it in a dirty cloth and continued, blood seeping through the fabric. To complain would mark you as weak, unworthy of your daily bread. Pain is not a medical condition here. It is simply life itself. The constant grinding in your knee joint reminds you of your mortality. At 35, you're already considered old among laborers. You've seen men driven mad by unrelenting pain, begging for death's mercy when tooth abscesses or kidney stones strike. The physicians with their bronze tools and herbal concoctions offer little help. Sometimes their cures, bloodletting, cauterization with hot irons, prove worse than the afflictions they claim to treat. Your fellow workers bear the marks of their suffering, fingers permanently bent from broken bones that healed wrong, burn scars from molten metal, backs curved from years of carrying stones. You've learned crude techniques to manage your own pain-tight bindings around aching joints, pressure points pressed hard to distract from deeper hurts, and breathing rituals learned from an old Greek slave who once served as a military medic. The gods offer no respite either. Despite your offerings at the temple of Asclepius, your prayers for relief go unanswered. As you lie on your thin pallet tonight, every muscle screaming in protest, you'll stare at the ceiling and endure as Romans have always done. Tomorrow brings another day of labor, another cycle of pain. This is not a temporary condition. This is your existence, a life defined by suffering that modern minds can scarcely comprehend. If you were to fall ill in Rome, your chances of survival would depend more on luck than medicine. The fever that burns through your body might be malaria, brought by mosquitoes from the marshlands. Your neighbors would whisper about bad air, malaria, as you shiver under thin blankets. The physician, if you could afford one, would check your pulse and examine your urine, looking for imbalances in your four humors, while death lurks patiently at your bedside. Your lungs fill with fluid as tuberculosis takes hold, and you cough blood into your hand. The people of your insula keep their distance now. There are no laws that would protect you, no understanding that your disease passes through the air you share in cramped quarters. The priest of Asclepius offers prayers while prescribing a concoction of honey, vinegar, and wolf's liver. You drink it desperately, though it does nothing but turn your stomach. Dysentery ravages your body after drinking from the same aqueduct that carries waste from upstream villas. Your stomach cramps violently as you rush to the public latrines again and again. If you could survive public toilets, those breeding grounds of disease where people share sponges on sticks to clean themselves, you might still succumb to the bloody flux that dehydrates you hour by hour. Your fellow workers have seen this before. Many never return from this precipice. Your child's skin erupts with the telltale rash of smallpox, and your heart sinks. You've witnessed entire streets emptied by this scourge. You place cool cloths on her forehead and burn sulfur in the room, hoping to drive away the miasma. The local wise woman suggests an amulet of Apollo, god of healing, and a poultice of crushed beetles. Your desperate prayers rise to gods who seem indifferent to human suffering as your daughter's breathing grows labored. The mysterious wasting disease that afflicts your workshop companion defies explanation. His skin turns yellow, his belly swells, and his mind wanders. The physician speaks of liver humors and prescribes a diet of radishes and raw eggs. You watch helplessly as he deteriorates, knowing your turn might come next. No one understands that the lead pipes bringing sweet water to your home slowly poison everyone who drinks from them. The wealthy suffer least, drinking wine that masks the metallic taste. When plague sweeps through your district, you witness the collapse of society's thin veneer. Corpses pile in streets as collection carts fall behind. Your wealthy patron has fled to his countryside villa, leaving urban clients to fend for themselves. You barricade your family inside, surviving on stored grain and rainwater. The emperor orders public sacrifices, while physicians debate whether the disease comes from angry gods or celestial alignments. Neither their prayers nor their theories save the dying who gasp their last breaths in overcrowded temples. Your mouth throbs with a dull, persistent ache that's been growing for weeks. Without toothpaste or regular cleaning, the dark film coating your teeth has hardened into a crusty deposit. You try to ignore it, but the pain is worsening. In ancient Rome, your teeth are already beginning to rot by your 20s. You rinse with urine. Yes, human urine, believing its ammonia content might whiten your teeth, following the advice of local physicians. The putrid taste lingers as the pain continues to build. The abscess forming beneath your molar feels like a knife stabbing into your jaw. You can't sleep, can't eat, can't focus on anything but the relentless agony. Your breath has become so foul that your family keeps their distance. If you lived in modern times, a simple course of antibiotics would save you. Instead, you chew willow bark for its pain-relieving properties and press cloves against the throbbing tooth, desperate for even a moment's relief from this torment. Finally, you can bear it no longer. You make your way to the tonsor, the barber who doubles as a dentist. His shop reeks of blood and fear. Other patients wait, faces swollen, eyes hollow with pain. The man before you screams as the tonsor wrenches a rotted tooth from his jaw using crude iron forceps. No anesthesia exists beyond the wine you've desperately consumed. Your heart pounds as you realize you're next, and there's no other option but to endure what's coming. The tonsor examines your mouth with dirty fingers. "This must come out," he declares, reaching for his extraction tools. You're held down by his assistant as white-hot pain explodes through your skull. The cracking sound as your tooth breaks during extraction sends waves of nausea through your body. Blood fills your mouth as the tonsor digs for remaining fragments with a metal probe. You'd pay any price, make any bargain with the gods to end this torture. Afterward, your mouth continues bleeding for hours. You rinse with wine, hoping its alcohol might prevent the wound from festering. Many Romans die from infections following tooth extractions, the bacteria spreading to their hearts or brains. You pack the socket with wool soaked in various herbs and pray to Apollo for healing. The relief from the abscess pain is immediate, but your ordeal isn't over. The empty socket remains vulnerable to infection, and you have no antibiotics to protect you. Your remaining teeth continue to decay over the years. By 40, you'll likely have lost most of them, making eating increasingly difficult. The wealthy replace missing teeth with carved bone or ivory, secured with gold wire, or even purchase teeth extracted from slaves or the poor. You, however, must adapt to a diet of increasingly softer foods. Your sunken cheeks and difficulty speaking clearly mark you visibly as someone aging before your time, all because you were born in an era without fluoride, fillings, or root canals. Your mind feels heavy, weighed down by thoughts you cannot name. If you were to speak of the darkness that clouds your thoughts, they would say demons possess you. No physician would recognize your depression as an illness of the mind. Instead, you might be subjected to exorcism rituals, painful purging treatments, or simply abandoned by those who fear your madness is contagious. Your suffering has no name here, only supernatural explanations that offer no true relief. If you wake screaming from nightmares of battle, your fellow legionaries would mock your weakness. The panic that seizes your chest when crowds press too close has no diagnosis in this world. Your trembling hands after witnessing death on the construction site would be seen as cowardice, not trauma. You learn quickly to hide these symptoms, drinking wine until numbness comes, praying to gods who never answer. Your mind's wounds are invisible to Roman medicine, yet they bleed nonetheless. Your racing thoughts and inability to sit still would mark you as touched by Mercury, capricious and unreliable. If melancholy grips you for weeks, they blame an imbalance of black bile or the influence of Saturn. The remedies offered, bloodletting, purgatives, strange herbal concoctions, often leave you weaker than before. You learn to perform wellness, to hide your suffering behind a mask of Roman stoicism, knowing that revealing your true state might cost you everything. If your child exhibits behaviors you recognize as autism or intellectual disability, you would watch helplessly as they're deemed cursed or defective. No special education exists here, no therapies or accommodations. The wealthy might hide away their affected family members. The poor often abandon theirs to the streets. You witness those with visible mental differences begging, exploited in crude entertainments, or treated as little more than animals. Your modern understanding offers no comfort in a world where difference equals defect. Your anxiety intensifies with each day of construction labor. The constant fear of collapse, the overseer's whip, the grueling hours, all combine to fray your nerves. There are no counselors to speak with, no medications to ease your symptoms. When you cannot sleep, when your hands shake too much to hold your tools, when panic overwhelms you, the only treatments available are superstition, wine, or punishment. The physical dangers of your work are matched only by the invisible toll on your mind. If you were to seek help from the temples, priest might prescribe sleeping in sacred spaces, hoping for divine healing dreams. The followers of Asclepius offer incubation rituals that occasionally provide relief through suggestion and rest. But for your chronic anxiety, your deepening depression, your traumatic memories, there is no cognitive therapy, no antidepressants, no trauma-informed care. In this ancient world, your psychological suffering remains largely unnamed, untreated and unrelieved. A silent burden you carry alone. If you were a woman in ancient Rome, your body would not be your own, but a vessel for continuing the family line. Pregnancy would loom as both duty and danger. You'd know at least one woman who died in childbirth. Perhaps your sister, your neighbor, or your friend. The midwife's arrival at your home would signal the beginning of an ordeal where your survival was far from guaranteed. Your labor pains would be met not with medical knowledge, but with superstition. You'd clutch amulets of eagle stones while the midwife invoked Juno Lucina. The room would be hot, dark, and terrifying. Your screams would echo through the house as family members waited outside, powerless. If complications arose, there would be no cesarean section unless they were prepared to sacrifice you. The procedure was performed only when the mother was dead or dying. Your monthly bleeding would bring its own horrors. For relief from cramps, you might be given concoctions of willow bark mixed with wine, or worse, advised to wear the liver of a cat around your neck. If your courses stopped unexpectedly, physicians might diagnose wandering womb and prescribe fumigations of your genitals with noxious substances. The male doctors who wrote medical texts rarely examined female patients, relying instead on theories that bore little relation to reality. Your desperate attempts to control your fertility would be dangerous gambles. You might chew Queen Anne's lace seeds, drink an infusion of silphium, a plant harvested to extinction, or insert wool soaked in cedar oil as a barrier. None were reliable, all carried risks. Abortions, when sought, were performed with poisons or sharp implements, often leaving you bleeding, infected, or dead. Your husband would face no such bodily perils for his role in reproduction. Your worth would be measured by the children you produced. A barren woman was an object of pity or scorn, often divorced or set aside. If your children died, and many would, with only half surviving to age 10, you'd be expected to try again, regardless of the toll on your body. The wealthy might turn to wet nurses to spare themselves the physical demands of nursing, but this brought its own risks to infants, who often received less attention in another's care. If you survived to menopause, you might finally gain some freedom from the cycle of pregnancy and childbirth, but you'd face new misunderstandings about your aging body. Treatments for hysteria or melancholy might include forced purging or bloodletting. Your knowledge of herbal remedies, passed down from mother to daughter, would be your most reliable medicine. In this realm of women's secrets lay your best hope for navigating the dangers of being female in ancient Rome. If you lived in ancient Rome, your body would know no mercy from the elements. Summer in the Mediterranean turns your workplace into a furnace. The sun beats down on your back as sweat soaks through your tunic, salt stinging your eyes. Your throat parches despite drinking water from your clay flask. Unlike your modern life with air conditioning, here you simply endure, your productivity waning as the merciless heat climbs toward midday. Your summer nights offer little relief. Your small room traps the day's heat like an oven. You toss on your straw mattress, windows flung open in desperate hope for a breeze that rarely comes. The wealthy might enjoy water features in their courtyards or servants with palm leaf fans, but you have no such luxuries. Instead, you dampen cloths to place on your forehead, a meager comfort as you struggle for sleep before another sweltering workday dawns. When winter descends, your suffering merely transforms. The chill seeps through stone walls and penetrates your bones. Your breath clouds before your face as you huddle near your small brazier, its meager coals providing more hope than actual warmth. Your fingers grow stiff and clumsy, making your craft difficult. You layer whatever garments you own, yet the cold finds every gap, every thin spot in your wool tunic. Your winter nights become a battle against hypothermia. You pile every blanket you own onto your bed, sometimes sleeping in your clothes. The wealthy burn oil lamps through the night for warmth, but your meager income cannot sustain such luxury. Instead, you might heat stones by your evening fire, wrap them in cloth, and tuck them near your feet. Some of your neighbors have died in particularly harsh winters. The elderly and infants most vulnerable to the cold's lethal embrace. Your body pays a heavy price for this seasonal assault. In summer, heat exhaustion stalks you constantly. Your head pounds, nausea rises in your throat, and sometimes your vision blurs as you work through midday heat. You've seen fellow workers collapse, some never to rise again. In winter, chilblains plague your extremities, painful itching swellings on fingers and toes that crack and bleed, invite an infection that could cost you a limb or your life. Unlike your modern existence, there is no escape, no button to press for relief. This suffering shapes Roman society. Work rhythms follow the sun and seasons. You rise earlier in summer, take afternoon rest when possible, and in winter crowd into public baths and taverns for communal warmth. While today's minor temperature discomforts prompt complaints, you and your Roman contemporaries simply accept these hardships as the unavoidable conditions of existence. Another tax the gods demand from mortal flesh. Your eyes sting the moment you wake, another day in your smoke-filled dwelling. The small brazier that kept you from freezing overnight has filled your room with a thick haze. If you could see across the small space, you'd notice the black residue coating the walls, the same residue that lines your lungs. Your morning ritual begins with that familiar deep cough, bringing up dark phlegm that you barely notice anymore. Stepping into the insula's corridor, you're greeted by the collective miasma of dozens of cooking fires. Your neighbors suffer the same fate. Children with perpetual coughs, elders wheezing through conversations. If you lived in the countryside, your lungs might stand a chance, but here in the urban crush of Rome, the air is never truly clear. Your body has adapted as best it can, but that persistent tickle in your throat never quite disappears. Your work at the construction site only worsens your condition. The constant cloud of stone dust hangs in the air as masons chip away at marble blocks. If you were to cover your mouth and nose, the foreman would mock your weakness. Instead, you breathe it all in. Limestone, marble, and cement dust becoming part of your body. By midday, you're spitting white-gray mucus, your throat raw and burning. This is the price of building Rome's glory. The public bathhouse offers no respite. The Hippocaust heating system fills the tepidarium with smoke that seeps through imperfect seals. You've learned to breathe shallowly here, even as you pretend to relax. The wealthier patrons cough, just as you do. Their grand domus with central heating merely exchanges one respiratory assault for another. There are no clean lungs in Rome, only degrees of damage that your body struggles to repair each night. Your evening meal is cooked over the same fire that choked you this morning. The small window in your dwelling does little to vent the smoke. If you were wealthy enough for proper chimney work, your lungs might fare better, but such luxuries aren't for people like you. Your neighbors' cooking fires add to the haze that settles over the city each evening. The gods themselves must struggle to see Rome through the pall that rises from thousands of hearths. As you age, your breathing becomes your biography. The wheeze that started in your 30s grows more pronounced with each passing year. The herbalist sells you expensive remedies that bring temporary relief at best. Your father died gasping at 50, his lungs finally surrendering to decades of smoke and dust. This will be your fate too, accepted without question or complaint. In Rome, clear breathing is not a right but a forgotten memory from childhood, before your lungs turn black with the price of civilization. Your skin crawls with an unseen enemy. At night, you scratch until blood appears under your fingernails. The tiny lice make their home in your hair, your clothes, your bedding. You feel them moving, multiplying. Everyone around you suffers the same fate, from the poorest slave to the wealthiest senator. You try crushing them between your fingernails, but for every one you kill, 10 more seem to appear. This is not an occasional inconvenience. This is your daily reality. Your stomach cramps violently as you squat over the communal latrine. The worms in your gut compete for the little nutrition you consume. You've seen them in your stool, pale, writhing things that make your insides their home. The physician suggests garlic and fasting, but you know it's temporary relief at best. Your neighbors share remedies, bitter herbs, vinegar drinks, prayers to Asclepius, but the parasites remain, sapping your strength day after day. Your bed becomes a battlefield each night. Tiny bedbugs emerge from cracks in your wooden frame, drawn to your warmth and blood. Their bites form red, itchy welts across your body by morning. You've tried everything, washing your bedding in hot water, sprinkling it with herbs, even moving your sleeping mat to the floor. Still, they find you. The wealthy use cedar oil and lavender to repel them, but on your meager income, such luxuries remain out of reach. Your feet burn with the familiar itch of hookworm. You know the cycle all too well walking barefoot through the city, the larvae penetrating your skin, the constant fatigue as they feed on your blood from within. Your pallid complexion betrays your infestation to anyone who looks closely. Children play in soil teeming with invisible threats, their distended bellies evidence of the same affliction. You've watched friends waste away, too weak to work, their bodies hosting hundreds of these silent thieves. The fleas from your neighbor's dog have found their way to your home. They jump between hosts indiscriminately, leaving itchy welts in their wake. You've heard whispers of these tiny tormentors carrying deadly fevers, but what can you do? The wealthy burn aromatic woods and herbs to drive them away. You make do with what you have, crushing pennyroyal leaves and spreading them across your floor. The bitter smell fills your nostrils as you sleep, a small price for even temporary relief. Your child's scalp is crusted with scabs from constant scratching. You sit them down in the courtyard's light, combing meticulously through their hair with a fine-toothed instrument, picking out the tiny eggs. This ritual connects you to every parent across the empire, from Britannia to Egypt, all fighting the same invisible battle. There are no permanent solutions, only temporary victories. This is the reality of your world, a constant, intimate relationship with creatures that modern medicine would one day vanquish, but which you must simply endure. Your ears never know rest in this city. Dawn breaks with the cacophony of metal striking metal, wood cracking against wood. Sleep ends not by choice, but by necessity, as hammers pound rhythmically on construction sites that surround your modest insula. Unlike your previous life, there are no noise ordinances here, no designated quiet hours. The builders begin at first light and continue until darkness makes their work impossible. You've learned to wake before the noise forces you to. If you thought you could escape by moving away from construction zones, you'd be sorely mistaken. The streets themselves are a symphony of chaos. Metal-rimmed cartwheels grinding against stone pavements, livestock braying and bellowing as they're driven to market, merchants shouting their wares at impossible volumes. Your modern sensibilities crave moments of silence that simply don't exist here. Even wealthy patricians with their garden-centered homes can't escape the urban roar that penetrates every wall. Your nights offer little respite. The taverns below and beside your dwelling erupt with drunken arguments and bawdy singing until the early hours. When they finally quiet, the bakers begin their work, pounding dough and stoking ovens. Your neighbors' domestic disputes, Love-making and morning routines penetrate the thin walls as if they were sharing your room. You've tried stuffing your ears with wool, burying your head beneath pillows. Nothing creates the silence you once took for granted. The forums and public baths you frequent are cauldrons of echoing voices, where hundreds of conversations bounce off marble surfaces simultaneously. No concept of indoor voices exists here. Men debate politics at full volume. Women gossip without restraint. Children shriek and play without admonishment. In your previous life, libraries and temples were sanctuaries of quiet here. Even religious spaces buzz with activity. Priests calling out prayers while supplicants murmur their own devotions in a constant undercurrent of sound. Your body has begun to change in response to this acoustic assault. Your sleep is lighter, more fragmented. You startle less at sudden crashes or shouts. Dark circles have taken permanent residence beneath your eyes. The constant vigilance required by your auditory system has left you perpetually fatigued, yet paradoxically alert. You've noticed your own voice growing louder to compete with the background din, your gestures more emphatic when words alone can't cut through the noise. If you were to seek true silence now, you'd need to journey far beyond the city walls, past the suburbs with their workshops and farms, into the deep countryside where human presence thins. Yet even there, nature provides its own soundtrack. Insects buzzing, birds calling, wind rustling through trees. The profound quiet you once knew simply doesn't exist in this world. Perhaps the greatest adaptation you've made to Roman life is accepting that silence is not a right, but a rare, precious luxury that few ever experience. If you thought city life was dangerous, the wilderness held even deadlier threats. As you cleared land for a new farm or villa, venomous vipers would slither from disturbed rock piles, striking without warning. Your sandaled feet offered no protection against their fangs. Unlike today, you carried no anti-venom, no quick way to summon help. Your only hope was to cauterize the wound and pray to Asclepius that the poison wouldn't reach your heart before the local root cutter could prepare a remedy of dubious effectiveness. Your nights would be haunted by the skittering of scorpions seeking warmth in your bedding. One wrong move as you reached for your water jug, and searing pain would shoot up your arm. The tiny assassins hid in the crevices of your walls, inside your stored grain, even in your footwear. You'd learn to shake out your shoes each morning and to hang your clothing rather than leave it on the floor. Habits that could mean the difference between life and death when medical care consisted mainly of herbal poultices and prayers. The buzzing clouds of mosquitoes that rose from every stagnant puddle carried fevers that could leave you delirious for weeks. You'd burn pungent herbs and smear your skin with rancid oils, desperate to repel the tiny vampire. The wealthy among you might sleep behind curtains of fine linen, but for most, nights meant swatting and scratching, while the insidious carriers of malaria feasted on your blood. By summer's end, half your household might be shivering with fever, their skin jaundiced, their strength sapped by an enemy too small to see. Traveling between towns meant risking encounters with wolves that haunted the forests of Italia or bears in the mountain passes. Your caravan would keep fires burning through the night, the flames your only defense against predators grown bold with hunger. The howling that echoed through the trees wasn't just unsettling, it was a reminder of how quickly you could become prey. Stories circulated of entire families devoured when they ventured too far from settlements. their bones scattered across remote paths as warnings to other travelers. Your grain stores attracted rats that carried disease and destroyed food supplies. The battle against these pests was constant and largely futile. You might keep a cat or set crude traps, but the rodents always seemed to multiply faster than you could eliminate them. When they contaminated your winter stores, you faced a terrible choice risk illness by eating tainted food or face starvation. The fleas that jumped from rats to humans brought with them the seeds of plagues that could empty entire neighborhoods in a matter of weeks. If bitten or stung, your treatment options were primitive at best. The local medicus might apply a poultice of crushed herbs or prescribe a concoction of wine and mysterious powder. More often, you'd rely on folk remedies passed down through generations, placing a copper coin on a sting or binding a wound with spider webs. Without understanding of infection or venom, many survived only by chance. Your neighbors would speak in hushed tones of the tanner's son who died from a seemingly minor bite, or the farmer whose arm swelled grotesquely after disturbing a nest of hornets.